everyone, my name is Shelby and this is the YouTube series where I reveal what's inside these mystery pottery molds I found on Gumtree. This is part 14 of the mold reveals, and this one is a 3-piece mold, and it's always really exciting when they're 3 pieces or more. So inspecting the mold, it doesn't have any indented stamping, but when I flip it onto the bottom, it does say Potbelly mug and also CFA or CEA. It's a bit smudged out, so I'm excited to see what sort of shape this mug is. So opening it up, it actually has a really beautiful curve, so it sort of looks like it flares out at the bottom, then flares back in and then back out at the spout. So I've got to clean that mold up because it's really dusty, to make sure that it doesn't contaminate my clay. But I'm actually really looking forward to this one because this is the first mold reveal that I've done that has such a flat, open, even surface that I can sort of use for whatever I want. So all the other molds before have sort of had either like grooves or figurines where I've sort of had to adapt my style to the figurine style, whereas this I can just have full artistic freedom on what I put on the mugs. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. So with this mold, it is quite obvious what it is when you open it up, but you can't really imagine the tactile feeling the piece will have until you actually pour it and open it up. So that bottom piece has created a foot in the mug, so that's the purpose of that one. And then when you take the 2 halves, it makes the sides of the mug. So it's so beautiful with that curve. I actually really love this shape. I've never been much of a fan for when mugs flare out at the top. That's just personal preference. But I actually really like this one because it's more subtle than ones I've seen before. It has a really smooth rise up over to the lip. And sometimes I see mugs where they really flare out and they're very eccentric, and that's really gorgeous, but it's not my style. So I really like this one. So I cut that top off and I go in with the sponge and smooth all those lines off from where the mold joined and just make it nice and smooth. So with mugs, when I'm pouring it, when you pour mugs or plates or things like that, you need to be conscious of how much clay you're letting set in that mug so that all of them are quite even weight and they also hold the same liquid, because if you put more clay in it, it impacts the amount of liquid you can hold in it. But because this was my first couple of pours, I didn't really concentrate on that, but if I continue to sell this style mug, I will do that in future. So I have a play with some ideas and sketch on with a grey lead sort of where I want to place the flowers. I usually do most of my work sort of freehand, but sometimes a grey lead really helps so that I can sort of place larger objects and larger prints around smaller prints, and it just helps with planning. So I've got the 3 mugs here. I ended up doing 4, but the 3 mugs I've got that I'm painting in this video at the start are underglaze illustrated, one with flowering gum natives, one with golden wattle, and then one that's just inspired by lots of florals that I like to use in my work. I'm just going for really bold colors, really bold print, something that I've wanted to do for a really long time in my own sort of style of mug, but this just happens to be in the mold, so I'm going to adapt it to this mug shape for this reveal. So yeah, most of this video is going to be painting, so I'm going to shut up in a minute because I had a few requests for sort of just some really slow meditative painting snippets for you just to relax and enjoy. But I will say that there's one more mug at the end which I'll come back in at and explain the finishing process, but I didn't film pouring that mug. I actually used leftover coloured slip from the shell vase from part 14. Where are we up to? Part 12, I think it was. So I've got the leftover coloured slip for that one, and I'll explain that when we get up to it. But for now, just enjoy the painting process. It's pretty much most of this video, so I'll chime back in when it's time to. Alrighty, so we're starting to get to the end of this painting footage. I hope that was really relaxing and you could just enjoy the process with me. Each of these mugs took so long, but as they sort of came together, I was so happy with them, and I'm really excited to see them finished. You might have seen that I had some gum leaves on the table because they'd fallen in my backyard, and I thought that it was a really lovely colour inspiration to sort of have in the background, especially for those flowering gum and golden wattle pieces. But as you can see, lots of layering. The grey lead will burn out too. In some of the layering, you can still sort of see that grey lead popping out, but it will burn out in the temperatures of the kiln. So you'll see that shortly. So just adding those finishing touches, and then I bisque-fied these as well because I wanted the underglaze to set on those mugs and so that it doesn't smudge, because I put so much work into them. So mixing up the glaze and glazing with a clear gloss. I need to glaze these. I don't own a matte glaze or a low sheen glaze, so it's the gloss, but I actually love the look of gloss. I know that not many people, there's a mix of people that like the gloss and like matte, but they have to be glazed to seal up that clay and to make sure that they're nice and smooth so you can continue to use them again and again. So I start by pouring it into the center, pour it out, sponge down any excess, and then I dip them into the gloss bucket. And then here is the mug I was talking about before. I stained it with it's the stained clay, so I'm adding some more pink glazes on top to highlight that coral color. It doesn't look like it's going to be much color yet, but it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. It was a lot lighter because I had to add some plain white clay to it, so it might be a lot lighter to that shell. But yeah, so we'll see how these glazes merge together and how they sort of combine and work their magic when they heat up to the required temperatures. So I popped it through the kiln for the glaze fire, and these colors could transform completely, but I'm really excited to see what they look like. And here is the finished result as I'm unpacking the kiln. I am so overjoyed with how that pink mug has come out already. My smile says it all. The colours have already ran so beautifully, so I can't wait to get it out properly and have a good look. I unpacked the rest of the kiln because the other mugs are at the back, and already the detail on the underglaze is just making me smile. I'm so stoked about it. But yeah, let's give a rundown of each mug and see what they look like up close. I absolutely love this. This was the shock of them all. This one's actually a little bit smaller because it's recycled clay and I don't add anything to my recycled clay. I was literally just doing it as a test, but it ended up being one of my favorites. I know that glaze isn't as much, I guess, detail and time into the illustration work, but it just packs a punch. It is like an aura all over a mug merging to make such magic. I adore it. The golden wattle mug is so simple but so divine. I love that I use lots of different tones of yellow. I usually use the one tone of yellow when I do golden wattle, but this just makes it sort of feel a lot more dense and more beautiful in a way, because there's a lot more texture in there by having the different tones. Look, I love all of them. I think that they've all got their own special element about it, and I just love pottery for this reason, is that you can turn one of your favorite artworks into this glorious piece of forever art, and it transforms into something so much greater than what it was before it went into the kiln. And just the feeling, the shape of these mugs and the way they sit in your hand is so gorgeous, and I really want to make more of these because they're nice and simple and they just fit any kitchen. They can be used any day of the week. They are incredible, and I love a cup of coffee in the morning. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe for part 15.